by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Company losses, regional growth targets, and trade talks in turmoil. Hello, and welcome to CBX Business News for Monday, September 15, 2025. I am Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks so much for joining us. Coming up in the newscast, locally, R.A. Williams swings to an almost $2 million Jamaican loss in first quarter, despite an over 7% revenue growth. On the regional front, Grenada targets a 4.2% growth in 2025 as jobs and finances strengthen. And over on the global stage, U.S.-China trade talks overshadowed by TikTok-Nvidia dispute. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Don't never, ever, ever wanna calm down. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I just sent the money. I'll WhatsApp you the tracking number.
Thanks, Daddy. I can't wait to buy that PS5.
Listen to me. Your birthday money is not just for spending. Remember what I told your mom? Remember to open the bank account immediately after collecting the money. Your mom has her ID, TRN, proof of address, proof of income, and your school ID.
I'm not an adult yet, so Mommy will have to open the account with me.
Yes. Anyways, I'm headed back to work, so call me later. I love you guys.
This financial literacy tip is brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, promoting financial inclusion. For more information, visit our BOJ Real Talk playlist on our YouTube channel.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with news coming from the Jamaica Stock Exchange Junior Market. R.A. Williams Distributors Limited has reported a net loss of Jamaican $1.9 million for the 3 months ended July 31, 2025, reversing a profit of Jamaican $24.1 million in the prior year's first quarter. The performance comes despite a 7.6% increase in revenues to Jamaican $417 million, buoyed by higher demand and the integration of new pharmaceutical product lines. Gross profit was relatively stable at Jamaican $188.2 million compared with Jamaican $190.2 million in Q1 2024-25. However, rising administrative expenses up 17.6% to Jamaican $105.3 million, along with higher selling and distribution costs of Jamaican $67.8 million weighed on results. As a result, Operating profit declined sharply to Jamaican $15.2 million from Jamaican $48.2 million a year earlier. The company managed to reduce finance costs by 13.3% to Jamaican $17.1 million, but this was insufficient to offset the surge in operating expenses. The loss translated into earnings per share of $0.00, down from 2 cents last year on the balance sheet. Total assets climbed to Jamaican $1.65 billion, up from Jamaican $1.34 billion in the same period last year, supported by a stronger equity base. Shareholders' equity nearly doubled to Jamaican $768.3 million, bolstered by Jamaican $355.2 million raised from its 2024 IPO. The company says the quarterly setback reflects short-term costs tied to growth initiatives. Management expects these investments, including the onboarding of Arrivis Pharma and expansion of its Mankind product line, to support stronger performance in upcoming periods. We now turn to another junior market player navigating margin pressures, Blue Power Group Limited. The soap manufacturer posted profits of Jamaican $28.4 million for the quarter ended July 31, 2025, down 41% from Jamaican $48.5 million a year earlier. Revenues held steady at Jamaican $232 million, but compressed margins from higher raw material costs, including a 40% CARICOM common external tariff on essential inputs, eroded earnings. Despite these headwinds, Blue Power maintained its market leadership in bath and laundry soaps and continues to invest in product development. The company is pivoting toward premium and specialty bath lines designed to capture growth in the skincare and beauty segment. Chairman Jeffrey Hall noted that the group's balance sheet remains robust, with cash and investments of roughly Jamaican $620 million. Blue Power also benefited from associate company Lumber Depot's satisfactory performance, underscoring the value of its diversified holdings. In other news, India and China's deepening trade relationship is reshaping global supply chains, and Jamaica is being urged to pay attention. Chief Asia economist at Morgan Stanley, Shetan Iyer, highlights that India's bilateral trade deficit with China has ballooned to US $120 billion, even as total trade between the two countries has nearly doubled over the past decade.
India's trade with China has nearly doubled in the last decade. India's bilateral trade deficit with China is its largest, currently at $120 billion. On the flip side, China's trade surplus with India is the biggest among all Asian economies. We expect this trade relationship to deepen given economic imperatives. India needs support on tech know-how, capital goods, and critical inputs, and China needs to capitalize on growth opportunities in the second largest and fastest growing EM.
He also notes that China remains the world's manufacturing hub, accounting for 40% of the global supply chain, while India is striving to integrate further into high-value industries such as semiconductors, electric vehicles, and renewable energy.
China is world's manufacturing powerhouse. It accounts for 40% of the global supply chain, far ahead of the US at 13% and India at just 4%. The global goods trade is increasingly focused on products higher up the value chain. Think semiconductors, electric vehicles, EV batteries, and solar panels. And China is the top global exporter in 6 out of 8 key manufacturing sectors. To put it quite simply, any economy that is looking to increase its participation in global value chains will have to increase its trade with China.
That was Chief Asia Economist at Morgan Stanley, Shetan Aya. For Jamaica, this evolving dynamic could prove significant. China is already a top trading partner for the island, supplying everything from construction equipment to consumer electronics. If India gains traction as a larger manufacturing and investment hub, Jamaica and the wider Caribbean may find themselves with a more diversified pool of suppliers for capital goods and industrial inputs critical to growth. Moreover, Jamaica's ambition to transform into a logistics and manufacturing gateway through its special economic zones and port expansions could benefit. Stronger India-China flows may redirect trade routes and investment strategies, positioning Jamaica as a transshipment and distribution hub between Asia and the Americas. We go now to updates from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. In Monday's currency trading session, the Jamaican dollar strengthened against all major counterparts except the euro. The greenback closed at Jamaican $161.47, while the Canadian dollar settled at $116.67. The pound sterling is now selling for Jamaican $216.72, and the euro advanced to Jamaican $193.82. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Monday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 115 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 57 declined, and 19 traded firm. Leading the winners are Margaritaville Turks USD, MFS Capital Partners, General Accident Insurance Company JA, and Medical Disposables and Supplies. While leading the decliners are Key Insurance Company, Cygnus Credit Investments 8.50% preference shares due 2026 Class E, G West Corporation ordinary shares, and cargo handlers. The main index advanced by 541.83 points or 0.17% to close at 318,501.75 points. The junior market index declined by 14.07 points or 0.42% to close at 3,353.41 points. In company news, Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited has declared an interim dividend of Jamaican 0.1292 cents per share. The payment will be made on October 24 to shareholders on record as at October 3, which is also the ex-dividend date. The company is urging shareholders to submit banking mandates to the JCSD for faster processing. Meanwhile, Lumber Depot Limited has announced a dividend of Jamaican 8 cents per share. The payout will go to shareholders on record as at September 25, with payment set for October 10, 2025.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Carrie Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we will be looking at biotechnology. Biotechnology, or biotech, is the science of using living organisms and molecular biology to create products that improve health and daily life. Beyond developing medicines, vaccines, and DNA fingerprinting, it also shapes fields like genomics, agriculture, and renewable energy. Modern biotech contributes to longer, healthier lives by producing disease-fighting therapies, boosting food production, and creating biofuels that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Still, the industry faces challenges. Research and development costs are high, and companies often earn little revenue during the long development phase. As a result, many smaller biotech firms rely on partnerships with larger, established companies to help fund and advance their breakthroughs.
The market education feature was brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. On Friday, Grenada's Governor General, Dame Cecile Lagrenade, opened the fourth session of the 11th Parliament with an upbeat outlook on the economy. Addressing lawmakers at the Parliament building in St. George's, she reported that the economy has expanded by an average of 5.1% annually, with a further 4.2% growth expected this year. This momentum, she says, has created real opportunities for Grenadians as unemployment fell from 13.9% in 2022 to a record low of 9.8% in the first quarter of 2025.
Since assuming office, our economy has grown by an average of 5.1% annually, with the economy on track to expand further by 4.2% this year. This strong growth performance has translated into real opportunities for our people, with the unemployment rate falling from 13.9% in the second quarter of 2022 to a historic low of 9.8% by the first quarter of 2025.
She also noted that public finances remain stable under prudent fiscal management.
Through prudent fiscal management, our public finances have remained in good shape. Added to this, our financial sector remains well capitalized and liquid, contributing to business and investor confidence.
That was Grenada's Governor General, Dame Cecile Lagrenade. Prime Minister John Briceño has tabled a motion in the House of Representatives seeking approval for Belize to deepen its stake in the Central American Bank for Economic Integration, CABE, through a US $40 million capital subscription. Speaking in Parliament last Friday, Prime Minister Briceño says the proposal will raise Belize's participation to 4,000 Series B shares. Of this, 25% valued at US $10 million will be payable in 4 annual installments of US $2.5 million, while the remaining US $30 million will remain callable capital available when requested by CABE.
Mr. Speaker, I move whereas Belize is a member of the Central American Bank for Economic Integration, the bank, And whereas recognizing the major opportunities in developing funding and initiatives that can be beneficial as a voting member of CABE, the government of Belize in 2023 requested an increase in its participation share capital of the bank. And whereas the Board of Governors of the bank on 18 December 2023 adopted resolution number AG 19 of 2023, which approved an increase in Belize's amount of its participation in the share capital of CABE to a total of 4,000 Series B shares, consisting of 25% or 1,000 shares as payable capital and 75% or 3,000 shares as callable capital.
That was Prime Minister of Belize, John Briceño. And the Investment Migration Agency of Grenada, IMA Grenada, has rolled out a new anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism policy. The measure brings Grenada's citizenship by investment program in line with European Union rules and top global standards. IMA Grenada says the move shows its commitment to transparency and accountability. It is also designed to protect investors and international partners from the risk of financial crime. Chief Executive Officer Thomas Anthony called the step a proactive approach to governance and risk management. He says it boosts credibility with global partners and assures investors that the program meets the highest levels of accountability. The policy takes effect immediately. It will be built into all agency operations with staff training, monitoring, and reporting systems. Annual reviews will ensure Grenada stays up to date with international best practice. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 23 securities, of which 4 advanced, 7 declined, and 12 traded firm. Today's winners are Massey Holdings, CIBC Caribbean Bank, Agostini Limited, and Scotiabank Trinidad and Tobago. While leading the losers are Unilever Caribbean, Prestige Holdings, Calypso Macro Index Fund, and Republic Financial Holdings. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All TNT Index advanced by 10.24 points to close at 1,418.35. The Composite Index advanced by 11.66 points to close at 988.58. The Cross-Listed Index advanced by 1.87 points to close at 74.05. The SME Index remained at 100.65. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, the euro area posted a trade surplus of 12.4 billion euros in July, a notable drop from the 18.5 billion recorded in the same month last year, according to official data. Despite the year-on-year decline, the figure slightly exceeded market forecasts of 11.7 billion surplus. The dip was largely driven by a sharp contraction in the bloc's trade surplus with the United States, which narrowed to 11.2 billion from 16 billion a year earlier. The drop reflects the ongoing impact of the trade tariff uncertainty as exports to the U.S. fell by 4.5%, while imports surged by 11.3%. Overall, Eurozone imports climbed 3.1% year-on-year to 239.1 billion euros. The increase was fueled by stronger demand for food and drink, up 9.3%, chemicals 10.6%, and machinery and vehicles up 2%. By trading partner, import volumes rose notably from China 3.6%, Switzerland 7.3%, Turkey 9%, and the UK 1%. Exports, meanwhile, posted modest growth of 0.4% to 251.5 billion. Gains in food and drink 2.8% up, and machinery and vehicles 3.5% helped offset declines in raw materials down 4.7%, fuels and lubricants down 18.5%, and chemicals down 6%. Regionally, export growth was led by Switzerland 8.8%, Turkey 6.3%, and the UK 2.9%. However, exports to China dropped sharply by 8.9%, reflecting ongoing geopolitical and economic headwinds. U.S.-China trade negotiations entered the second day on Monday amid rising tensions as Chinese investigation into NVIDIA and approaching TikTok deadline threatened to complicate the process. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the two sides have made good progress on technical aspects of the talks and are nearing a deal on the future of TikTok, the popular video platform facing a U.S. divestment deadline. However, tensions flared after China's State Administration for Market Regulation announced a preliminary finding that NVIDIA had violated anti-competition laws in the country. The regulator did not specify potential penalties, but said further action could follow pending a full review. The developments underscore the fragile backdrop to the trade discussions, which are aimed at stabilizing economic ties between the world's two largest economies amid growing geopolitical and regulatory friction. President Donald Trump is pressing ahead with his attempt to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, escalating a legal battle just days before the central bank's key interest rate decision. On Sunday, Trump's legal team filed an appeal with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, challenging a recent ruling by U.S. District Judge Jay Cobb that temporarily blocked Cook's removal and reinstated her to the Fed's board. At the heart of the dispute is whether the president has the authority to remove a sitting Fed governor for alleged misconduct that occurred before their appointment. The White House argues that Cook was lawfully removed due to past mortgage fraud allegations, claims she firmly denies. Cook's attorneys argue the removal attempt lacks sufficient cause as required under the Federal Reserve Act, warning that such a move would set a dangerous precedent and threaten the Fed's institutional independence. The outcome of the case could have far-reaching implications not only for the legal boundaries of executive power over the central bank, but also for the policy direction of the Fed. Removing Cook could shift the ideological balance of the board at a critical moment for monetary policy. Cook remains on the board while the court deliberates. A ruling could come ahead of the Fed's upcoming rate-setting meeting. And those were your international business stories. After the break, do rejoin us for your recap.
We're here to to open a savings account for my son John. I really want him to start saving and managing his own money.
And I need for Save to visit my father in New York.
Okay, based on what you said and our risk assessment, he will qualify for simplified customer due diligence requirements. I'll need your ID, proof of income, TRN, and John's ID as well.
Okay, here you go.
Opening an account is easier than you think using simplified customer due diligence requirements, also called CDD.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, R.A. Williams swings to an almost $2 million Jamaican loss in first quarter, despite an over 7% revenue growth. Regionally, Grenada targets 4.2% growth in 2025 as jobs finances strengthen. And internationally, U.S.-China trade talks overshadowed by TikTok-Nvidia dispute. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
I'm Livingston Morrison, CEO of the Jamaica Stock Exchange Group. You're watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
Giselle Riley here, wishing CBX a happy anniversary. Thank you for sharing the news that people need and want to hear. Here's to many, many more years to come.